What parts of the plan do you think they're feeling really, really good about right now?
I think they have to feel great about where they are organizationally from a pitching standpoint. And that's what's going on in the minors and all the work that's taking place down there in the development of a lot of these guys. You know, it's not just the guys that we talk about like Jack Leiter and Cole Winn. There are a number of guys. But, the Rangers, for as long as I can remember, have this organizational reputation as a team that, either couldn't attract pitching, and if they got guys, pitchers didn't come to Texas to get better. When I was growing up, I always heard about Rudy Jaramillo and how hitters wanted to come to Texas because Rudy Jaramillo was going to work his magic. And whether it was Rudy or just the hitting environment in Texas or, whatever, there were a ton of examples of hitters who would come to Texas and would have a career year. I mean, I watch one regularly on MLB Network, and Mark DeRosa. He was just kind of a journeyman to a degree, came to Texas, career year. They turn guys' careers around. And the Rangers are starting to do that on the pitching side. And we talked about this. It was like 4 years ago, the Rangers did an about face. They changed a lot of the personnel in the organization who were responsible for the development of pitching. They changed a lot of their philosophies internally about what tenets were important to them in terms of developing pitching, what, from an analytics side, what qualities and characteristics they look for. And we're starting to see that not only pay dividends with the development of the young guys, but guys, this is a trend. Mike Minor, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, Martin Perez. I know Martin was a Ranger previously, but under a different regime. He's come back and is having a career year. And I just think the Rangers deserve some credit and have to feel great about their ability over the last few years to take major league players and make them better. And there are guys around the league who are noticing that, and that means something.
It's, because if you look at Perez's numbers, like, the strikeouts per nine aren't super high. Like guys who usually have ERAs in the ones are striking out, 10, 11, 12 guys per 9 innings. He's sitting there at 7. But I don't feel that he's getting very lucky either. So, what are some of his peripheral numbers? Is he getting lucky? Am I just missing it?
No, so it's a lot of weak contact, a lot of ground balls. We've talked so much. I know you got the people who are like, no, let's hit ground balls to the opposite field side and blah blah blah. But the reality is, the numbers bear out. Even in a year in which offense is down, or years in which offense is up, that you hit a ground ball, you are not going to do as much damage as if you hit a line drive or a fly ball. Because ground balls, if they turn into hits, are very, very often singles. Whereas you hit a ball in the air, it could be a home run. A ground ball almost never is going to be a home run. There's the 1 in, 20,000 inside the park home run that's a ground ball, but I'd say 97% of inside the park home runs aren't ground balls. So Martin Perez is getting ground balls at an elite level. And so you're right. He's not striking out a lot of guys. There's not this, more modern sense of dominance, but it's a lot of weak contact. And, the other thing that stands out, and I tweeted this last night, Martin Perez over the course of his career has been very poor at getting right-handed hitters out. And there are more right-handed hitters in the league than there are lefties. And so teams are often able to put together a lineup to face Martin Perez that is chock full of righties, like last night, where he did not face a single left-handed hitter. Martin Perez this year has been outstanding at getting righties out. Righties are hitting well below 200 against him. And so that kryptonite that has given him issues is no longer a challenge for him. At least it hasn't been. And that's because his changeup is performing as well as it ever has. His cutter has performed as well as it ever has. And those two pitches are great neutralizers for the platoon disadvantage. So for righties against lefties and lefties against righties. And those two pitches have been outstanding. And in general, Martin Perez, there are a lot of measurements for this, and I don't know how much I love these. There's something called target efficiency, which tries to measure your accuracy relative to where it is believed the target is set up from the catcher. I don't know that I love that because sometimes catchers will set up late and all this, but there's no doubt about this. Martin Perez's control and his command have both been just absolutely pinpoint, and it's been really fun. Like, 10 starts. I know that's a third of a pitcher's workload throughout the year, so that means he's got 2/3 left. But what he's done has been nothing short of phenomenal. And you could pick one of 17 different stats or lists that he's a part of that just blow you away. It's remarkable what he's done.
Has he changed something major, like mechanically or approach-wise?
I think, Sean, I know you can't measure this. I think mentally this guy is so much different than he was first time around. I had a chance a month ago to sit down, and we were just talking to the dugout for like 30 minutes about what he learned when he left Texas. And I think it was important for him to leave Texas. When he was here, he came up big-time prospect. April of 2014, he started to put to work and put on display this prospect potential. And then he had Tommy John, and he came back, and he never really refound that. And he was always chasing that. Whether he was doing it or other people were kind of putting him in that position, it was never – Martin Perez can never have a good outing and people enjoy it for what it was. It was like, oh, okay, now maybe he's going to start showing that he can be that guy again. And I think when he left and he went to Minnesota and then went to Boston, he was just Martin Perez there. Those fans didn't – there was nothing about being a prospect. He was just some veteran pitcher who had an average career. And I think he's come back and he's not chasing that – that shadow anymore. And I think, he talked about when he was in Boston, a pretty seminal conversation with Pedro Martinez about just pitching philosophy and not throwing too many strikes, but also not throwing, when he's going to throw a pitch out of the zone, the way to go about it. And he's convinced that conversation with Pedro Martinez really helped turn things around for him. And so I think that those are elements we can't measure, but I think it's real. I think he's grown up, and the last thing is he's not trying to be, big macho overpower guy, right? When he came up and he's throwing 95 from a lefty, a decade ago, that was impressive. Now it's not. Now you throw 95, whether you're a lefty or righty, whatever. I mean, a lot of guys do that, and he has become a better pitcher, and he's trying to be more of a pitcher, much less of a thrower, and I think it's paid big dividends.
Jared Sandler, Rangers insider, join us here at 105 through the Fan. My assumption is that their plan with him was kind of similar to Minor and Lance Lynn. Use him, bleed what you can out of the rock, and then flip him at the deadline if he performs well and get something for him. Does the position they're in, the sixth wild card, 2 games out, does that change their plan, their expectations for the season?
Yeah, and I think it's a great question, and one that people are obviously asking now. You have like 1 minute I have someone saying the Rangers should extend Martin Perez. The next minute I have someone saying they're foolish if they don't trade him. Right? I mean, it can be anything. I think that they will definitely get calls on Martin Perez, and so much of those decisions don't need to be made right now, obviously. But I don't know. I think that I'll correct you, RJ. I think their plan was not like Lynn and Minor. I think their plan was, and I know you weren't referring to this specifically, but they signed Martin Perez to start the season in their rotation and maybe end up in the bullpen, right? Like, I don't know that they were planning on Martin Perez being this good. So could they trade him? Yeah. Chris Young came on this station last year and made, the example of, hey, would you trade Babe Ruth? No. What if you get offered DiMaggio, Gehrig, Trout, and Betts for Babe Ruth? Yeah, you're going to do it, right? So point being that there's certainly not a deal out there that they wouldn't entertain for Martin Perez, or there's certainly, I shouldn't say, other way around, there certainly are deals out there they'd entertain. I don't know that they are, if they're in the conversation for the postseason on July 15th, I don't think that they're going to necessarily be aggressively shopping Martin Perez. And then there's also the dynamic, it's the Kyle Gibson thing. This is an anomaly year. Kyle Gibson last year was an anomaly year. Gibby had another year of control. Martin doesn't. So I don't know how the league is going to value Martin Perez, especially with what you mentioned earlier, Arthur. He doesn't strike a lot of guys out. So you might not get commensurate value because teams are skeptical, even though, at that point he would have had 15, 18 starts under his belt if he's still performing at this level.